Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at washingtech.com/book. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player.
Moving the needle. Welcome to the Washington Policy Podcast.
Curating communications, media, and tech policy news so you don't have to. News, interviews, everything you need without the axe to grind. It's the Washington Tech Policy Podcast with Joe Miller.
WhatsApp encrypts data for its 1 billion users. Senators Burr and Feinstein reportedly introduce a bill to ban encryption. And Natalie Cofield is my guest. WhatsApp, the mysterious social network with a 1 billion user base that is second only to its parent company, Facebook, has decided to activate encryption for all of its users. With encryption enabled, even WhatsApp employees are unable to determine the content of billions of texts, videos, phone calls, and photos its users send every single day. WhatsApp made the decision amidst a national debate about the extent to which the federal government should be able to obtain court orders to unlock an iPhone used by one of the San Bernardino shooters. Apple and the FBI were embroiled in litigation about the matter until the FBI revealed that it had figured out how to unlock the phones itself. The timing of WhatsApp's decision to encrypt the data of its 1 billion users based predominantly outside the U.S. demonstrates the company's opposition to surveillance and is fueling the ever-evolving debate about the extent to which tech companies should be expected to provide information about their users to law enforcement. For a detailed analysis, you'll want to read Cade Metz's brilliant coverage over at Wired. Meanwhile, the U.S. Senate is apparently working on a bill to prevent companies from encrypting data in such a way as to make it inaccessible to law enforcement. Corey Bennett over at The Hill found the bipartisan draft bill introduced by Senators Richard Burr, the Republican from North Carolina, and Dianne Feinstein, the Democrat from California. It's entitled the Compliance with Court Orders Act, and if it's enacted by Congress and signed by the president, would require tech companies to provide data in plain text and in real time to the U.S. government. So the U.S. government wouldn't even need backdoor access. You can find more at The Hill. We're just under 2 weeks into April, and U.S. Citizen and Immigration Services has already announced foreign workers applying for skilled worker visas, otherwise known as H1B visas, have already surpassed the cap of 85,000 that's set for the visas. Supporters of the visas want to raise the cap, and opponents, including Donald Trump, think the visas are a mechanism to marginalize American workers. Now that the cap has been reached, additional H1B visas will be granted via lottery. You can find out more at Fortune. Egypt is arresting people for posting comments on Facebook the country deems threatening to its national security. The country had already banned Facebook Free Basics, which provides limited internet access to developing nations. The Washington Post has more. Paul Mazur at the New York Times reports that the U.S. has now listed China's internet controls among things it considers trade barriers. The controls, known as China's Great Firewall, even block sites and services offered by Google and Facebook. Experts say China isn't likely to budge, saying strict control of its national discourse has allowed businesses based in China to thrive and has prevented foreign surveillance, such as the surveillance uncovered by Ed Snowden. For more, you can read Paul Mazur's coverage at the New York Times. The FCC has unveiled new broadband nutrition-style labels. ISPs will now need to provide information about speeds, early termination fees, and the like on a label, enabling consumers to obtain information they would otherwise have had to search high and low for. You can find more at The Verge. Finally, the FCC is planning to fine a California-based mobile provider a record $51 million for enrolling tens of thousands of people as Lifeline recipients, but who were not actually eligible. The company received some $9.7 million in Lifeline subsidies. The FCC recently expanded the Lifeline program to provide $9.25 per month broadband subsidies to low-income households that qualify for Medicaid and SNAP assistance. Charles Riley at CNN Money has more. Stay with us. And for you, my dear listeners of the Washington Tech Policy Podcast, Audible is offering a free audiobook and a free 30-day trial to give you the opportunity to check out their service. Why not listen at the gym, in the car, or on your morning run? How about Good to Great by Jim Collins? You can download Good to Great or another audiobook free by trying audible.com. Sign up for your free audiobook and 30-day trial today at washingtech.com/book. My guest today is Natalie Cofield. Natalie has carved a niche for herself as an entrepreneur, advocate, and speaker on all things business and diversity. Her work has spanned continents, communities, and corporations, and can currently be found impacting lives and bottom lines at organizations in cities including Austin, New York, D.C., L.A., Sao Paulo, Johannesburg, Nairobi, and beyond. A converted management consultant, economic fellow, and economic development director. She is immediate past president of the Greater Austin Black Chamber of Commerce, founding president of the Austin Black Technology Council, and founder of Walker's Legacy, a national women in business collective. Natalie recently co-founded Urban Collab, an urban innovation-focused co-working space and startup incubator designed for community change makers and innovators looking to create solutions for urban problems throughout the nation. A graduate of Howard and the Baruch School of Public Affairs in New York, her work has been featured in Forbes, Business Insider, Black Enterprise, Essence, and Ebony, among others. Please welcome Natalie Cofield. Natalie, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So, Natalie, you've done so many great things. You're really just an incredible success story for aspiring entrepreneurs. So it's truly a privilege having you on the show. Let's start with your success story, the successes you've had, the relationships you've built simply did not come without incredible hard work, just a massive time commitment, consistency, sleepless nights, you name it. But what lit that initial spark for you that made you decide that you wanted to be an entrepreneur?
Well, I grew up reading business plans that my mother would put together while she was a vice president at a Black Enterprise 100 company. And having been exposed to her and her fascination and dedication to building her own business was the first start for me. I also grew up with a father that worked in the technology space and later went on to teach entrepreneurship. But more than all of that, I think being exposed to a company that really employed people from the community and at its peak, more than 500 people worked there, and it was called Altrex Industries, really helped me to see just how instrumental business ownership is, particularly in communities of color, where you have the ability to change people's entire lives and their families' lives also. So that for me was very inspiring and really sparked my interest in knowing that I had what it took to go out there and start my own company.
And entrepreneurship is more than just being about the lifestyle one chooses to live. I love the Rob Report as much as anyone, looking at pictures of yachts and mansions and fantasizing about spending most of my time on the beach. But if I made that my sole motivating factor, I don't think I'd be very successful. And I noticed that just by virtue of your creation of Walker's Legacy, an organization you founded to help professional women, that your primary focus is on the value you create for others, that it's not just all about you. Can you tell us some more about Walker's Legacy, the problem you saw that Walker's Legacy was created to address, how Walker's Legacy has made an impact thus far, and what's coming down the pike?
Sure. So Walker's Legacy is a global women in business organization that I founded when I was 26 years old, living in Washington, D.C. It's named in honor of Madam C.J. Walker, the first self-made female millionaire in U.S. history. And it's been quite the inspiration for me as well to continue to tell her story from the business perspective. I think a lot of times her legacy has really been relegated to just the product that she was creating, but not the methodology and the business model that she also built, and really kind of celebrating her as an entrepreneur. The problem that I was looking to solve when I built Walker's Legacy was quite simply that I didn't have a female mentor. So as a young 26-year-old woman living in D.C., playing with the big boys, I guess you could say, it was tough for me to be taken seriously the way that I wanted to be. And outside of my mom, it was a challenge for me to find women who actually would be willing to take the time to talk to me about everything from my business plan to how to get a deal with companies, nonprofits, or corporate America. And so when I would reach out to them, I realized that they wouldn't respond. And part of that is, as I've learned, as a busy professional woman, you just don't have the time. There's an inefficiency in the mentorship model where it's a one-on-one relationship, especially if it's a new relationship for you. And so in building this platform, we actually maximize an hour of their time and spread that across, anywhere from 40 to 100 women at one time in these intimate discussions. And so that was really how Walker's Legacy got started when I was also the commissioner for the DC Commission for Women. I was the youngest appointed commissioner, and I chaired the entrepreneurship committee for them. Since that time in 2009, our first program held in 2010, when I said we were a global women in business organization, that's exactly what we are. We're now expanded to more than 20 cities across the country. We also just this month announced our expansion to Lagos, Nigeria, Nairobi, Kenya, which will be having our first program on the 23rd of this month, and Johannesburg, South Africa. And just yesterday, I was talking about bringing Walker's Legacy to Sao Paulo, Brazil. So, in terms of what we have coming down the pike, some exciting announcements with some federal agencies that I can't speak to just yet, so you have to stay tuned, that we'll be forming an MOU partnership with. And then lastly, we just were awarded a contract with the Small Business Administration and the National Women's Business Council to do research that we have been advocating for the last 2 years to better understand unique challenges that are particularly germane to African American female entrepreneurs. So very, very excited about that. And lots of stuff happening with Walker's Legacy.
Wow, it doesn't get more serious than this. Here is social entrepreneurship, tying your company's marketing to having a real impact globally, worldwide, not just here locally. So, Natalie, I just truly applaud you for that. Now let's turn to Urban Collab, your most recent project. There are so many co-working workspaces popping up around the country, such as WeWork, here a hub in San Diego. There are others. And again, yours is a bit different because central to its mission is bringing the co-working model to underserved communities. So can you tell us a little bit about what co-working spaces are and how Urban Collab is different?
Sure. So co-working spaces are really an opportunity for entrepreneurs, contractors, and other startup businesses to come under one roof and to maximize, again, the efficiencies of scale. Previous models would have people working out of coffee shops. And now, in today's model, you can actually come into a co-working space and set up shop at a table, as you would at a coffee shop, or have your own dedicated desk in a location. And so, with Urban Collab, what we ended up doing was taking over a very important block in Austin's historic African American community on the corner East 12th and Chacon. And as you mentioned, one of the biggest themes for our organization has been how do we connect the work that we're doing to the community? And so we have identified social entrepreneurship and social innovation as a major industry and area of focus for us. And we've literally had thousands of people come through our space for programming as well as to work out of this facility. But it's been everything from multimillionaire angel investors to neighborhood housing associations and community groups. We wanted Urban Collab to be a center where everyone felt that they had an opportunity to come and that they were completely welcome. And that's what we've built.
And it's not just a workspace, from what I understand. You provide consulting services as well, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we have, through the formation of this organization, been contacted by individuals from around the country wanting to learn more about how to build centers of innovation in urban communities themselves. And so as such, we have developed opportunities for myself and our team to share our expertise with those individuals or other programs that they're interested in establishing that touch a particular demographic for which we have expertise.
So give us a glimpse into your personal journey as an entrepreneur, Natalie. Was there ever a time that you just wanted to quit? Can you describe that moment, and how did you overcome it and decide to keep persevering?
Oh, there have been plenty of plenty of times when I wanted to quit. Entrepreneurship certainly is not for the faint of heart. There's a great quote that I love, and it says, entrepreneurship is living a few years of your life like others won't, so you can spend the rest of your life living like others can't. And it comes with quite a lot of personal, financial sacrifices. And, how do you keep getting back up? I mean, I've literally run out of money before. I've lost a client deal. We've had, some catastrophic situation happen. I always tell people to be an entrepreneur, whether you believe in Allah, Jesus, Buddha, whomever. You really have to find the ability to be spiritually and personally centered and grounded, because you'll go to sleep that night, cry your heart out, feel like you don't ever want to come back and do something, don't want to show your face again. But the next day you have to get back up and you have to go back at it. And I think just the process of becoming an entrepreneur and staying in the game, most businesses don't exist past the first year. So even for Walker's legacy, so to say, to be here 6 years later is a big deal. And there have been plenty of times where we've, again, lost money, gained money, had people come, had no one show up. And, the highs and lows of that have to be met somewhere in the middle. And one of my mentors once told me, you're never as great as your best accolade, and you're never as bad as your worst critique. And so life must be lived somewhere in the middle of all of that. And I think, once you can find that kind of centering and grounding, it's really important. And the other thing is you have to have people that you can talk to. Just yesterday, I participated in some amazing programming called Founders Therapy. We actually had it here at the space. And, it came out amongst a number of entrepreneurs that they had suffered through a mild bouts of depression. Because again, you put your whole heart into this. You are an entrepreneur. You're out there. Your name is out there. It's embarrassing. It's exciting at the same time, and you feel nervous about this because all you have in life is your word and your reputation. And I think having a group of people, whether they be family or friends, that can listen to you, that can take your call when you feel like you're down and out, that may need to Western Union you $100 when you've reached that negative 100 in your bank account, which many of us have, is important. Yeah. And that's the reality of entrepreneurship. I just want to share that because I think sometimes we over-glamorize, what the entrepreneurial journey and experience is. And for a lot of people, for the majority of people, you will be bootstrapping, you will be scaling your whole life back, and you will be making significant sacrifices. But if you're willing to do that, then you can get to the other side of success.
Yeah, I got to tell you, and I remember getting my first client, and I screwed it up. And I didn't know it hit me like a ton of bricks. I didn't know what I was going to do. For weeks, it hit me so hard. But you know what? That's what it's about, and, I wanted to quit at that moment, but I persevered. And so it's a lot of stress. It's a lot of hard work, but it's definitely worth it in the end because you have something that you created. You have a product, you have a service that you've created, and nothing can really beat that.
Yeah, and one point to that is, I always tell people that regardless of what happens at the end of your entrepreneurial journey, it's still possible to fail forward. And what I mean there is you will never have the experiences and the expertise that you've created for yourself during whatever duration of entrepreneurship that you were involved in taken away from you. No one can take that experience. You can win money, you can lose money, but you can never lose your experiences. Right. And so I think it's important that people do exactly what you just mentioned, which is take a bet on themselves and actually think about how they can start something and give themselves a shot the same way that they do with companies that they work with.
Natalie, thanks so much for joining me. It's been a privilege having you on the show. I just want to ask you a few more questions and then we'll close. Sound like a plan?
Sure.
All right. On this podcast, we like to talk about policy and entrepreneurship, but also about what makes successful people like you tick. Tell us, Natalie, what are some habits, tactics, and apps that you use every day to stay on top of your game?
Well, the first thing is I wake up reading emails. I don't know whether it's great or not, but I'm working all the time. I run 2 companies. Both of them are profitable businesses, and it takes dedication and diligence and persistence. And so I wake up in the morning, I read emails, I start my day by kind of delegating things to the teams that I manage, one of which is actually a virtual team, so they're not even literally in front of me, which is also an interesting way to manage a business. And I run because it's important. Running became a form of meditation for me. I also take times where I go on meditation retreats. I literally just got back from Cambodia about 4 weeks ago because I was working really, 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 really hard, and I needed a level of inspiration and exposure that I wasn't going to be able to get anywhere that I already knew. And I needed to take myself out of my situation and put myself in a place where I can have some clarity. And I think moments during the day where you can do that are really important. The other piece is, for me, prayer is very important to me also. Just yesterday, I was on a business call with one of my friends, and we ended it with prayer. That's not the first time that's ever happened to me. And in fact, some of my partners on Urban Collab are people who spiritually minister to me, and I need that, and I appreciate having them on the team in that way. Apps, I would be nothing if I didn't have Google. And I mean that everything we do is on the Google platform. And it's not even because they're a sponsor of Walker's Legacy. It's because I just literally have access to it no matter where I go. All of our emails through I can do Gmail. I can do everything on my Google Docs. I mean, it's just amazing. So the only thing that I can say I would not be able to live without is my Google on my phone, my Google Drive, my Google Forms, my Google Apps. And all of that comes with that. And I think maybe one funny one that I love is DocuSign, because I'm always on the run and I never have time to print out documents and sign them the way people need them to traditionally. But DocuSign allows me to do that online, and it's been very, very, very helpful.
So tell us the name of a book that you read recently that you're recommending to basically everyone you meet.
Well, it's funny, and this is probably a bad thing, but I haven't been able to spend as much time reading books as I would really, really, really like to. I spend a lot of time reading articles online and digesting content that way. So I feel horrible that I don't have a book that I can just say, you should go out and buy this particular book. What I do encourage people to do is to find people that they aspire to be like and to read their biographies as much as they can. And that's, again, how I formed Walker's Legacy. I would go to bed at night and read her bio, whether it was online or it was on Wiki or it was her actual book, The Life and Times of Madam T.J. Walker. That was very inspirational to me. Reginald Lewis's story is very inspirational to me as well. I draw inspiration from things like that. But one book that did transform my life was The 4-Hour Workweek. And that book was something that I have read more than once. And it talks about how to make more efficient your team and your day. And the idea that most people, one of the most impressed upon me quotes in the book was, most people are not necessarily looking for $1 million. What they're looking for is $1 million lifestyle. And that is the truth. It is the reality. They're looking for freedom. They're looking to say, I want to go and get up and go to Cambodia and be in Cambodia for 2 weeks and still be able to run my business. Reading that book and understanding how to build virtual teams has also helped me to build virtual teams for my businesses. So the 4-Hour Workweek is a book I would really encourage people to look at.
Thanks again, Natalie, for joining me. Do you have any final ideas you'd like to leave with the audience before we close? And where can folks find you online?
Final ideas, I think if you have something that you have literally woken up in the middle of the night with a burning desire to do, you should do it. Because that time when you're sleeping, it's unfiltered, uncontrolled ideation. And, a lot of times we put limitations on ourselves. And so when you're dreaming about something, I think it's heavy on your heart and it's been placed before you, and you should at least explore the possibility of you doing that. I also think it's important to have a good team of people. And as an entrepreneur, your team around you will probably change from the group that it used to be when you worked for another company. Doesn't mean that those friends will be gone. It just means there's a whole different type of journey that you endeavor on when you start your own business. And it's great to have that support structure. And so those are things that I would say. Your team and your personal persistence are very, very important. And how people can find me, you can find me through Walker's Legacy at walkerslegacy.com or at Urban Collab at urbanco-lab.com.
Awesome. And you've been listening to Natalie Cofield, founder and CEO of Walker's Legacy, a global women in business collective and Urban Collab shared co-working community for urban innovators. She previously served as the president and CEO of the Greater Austin Black Chamber of Commerce, where her work resulted in award-winning, case-studied, nationally covered acclaim, including the development of I Am Black Austin. In 2013, Cofield was named the Technology Diversity Evangelist of the Year by Google and one of the top 10 Black innovators by MVMT50, an initiative of South by Southwest. Natalie, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me, Joe.
That concludes episode 34 of the podcast. Thanks so much to all of you for listening. I can't do any of this without you, so thank you. And if you like this show, well, if you like it or you don't like it, or if you don't like it, it's really kind of a technicality, but you can leave a review too if you want. But do me a favor and do that, and head on over to iTunes and give me a rating and review. It doesn't take long. I promise you'll be in and out in 30 seconds. I can't tell you how important these ratings and reviews are, so thanks for that. And again, thanks for listening. I'll see you back here next week. See ya.
Thanks for listening to the Washing Tech Policy Podcast. You've been briefed.